Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Javana, and I'm very, very excited to have you all join me today. We're having a session on our Do the Right Things project. But first, I'll say a little about myself. I am a dedicated community facilitator at Empower NL, and I am driven by this sense of passion for social justice and equity. I hold a first degree in political science and a master's degree in gender studies from Memorial University here in Canada. My personal experiences with my background in Nigeria has shaped and inspired the work I do, like what I'm interested in. I find so much strength, from being committed to amplifying marginalized voices and creating inclusive spaces wherever I can. So happy to be here. This project was initially started and researched by Bone Canada, and they asked us at Empower to join hands and continue and make something out of it. We partnered also with the Women Economic Council to you know bring this project to life, as I would say. So here are the three partnerships. Before I would proceed, I want us to take a moment to truly acknowledge these three organizations as Empower NL, Women Economic Council, and Dawn Canada, Um, the project I would say is a collective vision, and it's the commitment from all three organizations that have made this possible. And this collaborative effort that went into this work is something I'll talk about all through the session because you'll see how important it is for organizations with like minds to come together to make something meaningful, that would impact a lot of it, like a whole group of people. So, to introduce our curriculum, because this is um, the first module of so many other modules that we have. Even though I will later be focusing on the skill development aspect of our module, but I just want to give a quick overview of what the whole curriculum is about. First of all, we need to know that there are some research that has been done that has shown clearly that women and gender diverse people with disabilities experience immense barrier, and these barriers are often complex because ableism overlaps with other forms of discrimination like race, gender, sexuality, to make the issue very unique. This also means that there is a need for specific and targeted solutions to address this. And that is what this course curriculum is about. It wants to really bring up the issues and then, prefer solutions. The systemic issues are widespread, and for many decades now, we've been talking about the same thing. But still, according to Statistics Canada, at least 59% of all human rights complaints have been related to disability discrimination and especially workplace discrimination. So this systemic ableism, sexism, racism, and other forms of institutional oppression are all what are the roots of what this course curriculum is about. Um, like I said, the course curriculum will first of all identify these rights, the rights of people with disabilities. It talks about some of the learning outcomes from understanding these rights. There's a module that talks about reflective practices. There's another aspect of it that talks about the skills, at least seven skills. And then there is a place that talks about the action plans. This course curriculum is grounded in the framework of the following key conventions. It takes approach to identify, remove, and prevent barriers to accessibility. The first convention I'll talk about is the United Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. This convention was adopted 10 years ago by the United Nations, and it has been ratified by 168 states, including Canada. It marked a major step in the disability rights approach and um, things the idea behind this is that after many decades of fighting and working hard, we've now come up with this and said, okay, this convention will address this particularly. However, people with disabilities still continue to suffer serious and multiple discriminations regardless. Then they say that the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women provided a basis for realizing equality between women and men through ensuring that women's equal access to the workforce, to in political life and even public life, that all these things are clearly stated. We're not working based on assumptions anymore, but they are enshrined in these constitutions that are clearly stated. But it didn't change much, even though these conventions have been in place, and so many organizations have laid claims to the fact that they have taken it into considerations. People with disabilities continue to suffer so many discrimination. I have a video here that I would like you to play. So I'd like you to watch, that sums up the whole idea of what these conventions are. So 1 minute, I'm trying to let the volume. Okay. We are all equal before the law. To justice, we have the right to live free. To Yes, thank you. So like you can see, the video sums up what this rights are about, what these conventions are about, and on to the next slide. All right. So like I said earlier, our focus for these sessions are the skill development. What you gain from attending the courses or from watching the projects or spending time just looking through. These are some skills that we guarantee that you would gain from participating in these courses. We have the advocacy skill, the gender-based violence in the workplace, diversity, equity and inclusion, leadership and empowerment, empathy and cultural awareness, public speaking and presentations, policy analysis and development. These are skills that you will gain from being a participant in any of these courses. And the good thing about this is that any of these skills can be tailored to tend to a particular situation. That must not, it's not just what we're covering in this course. It can expand, it can be tailored to suit different purposes. So these different components for this module, I'm just going to focus on three main components: advocacy, gender-based violence, um, empathy, and cultural awareness. Well, the first one I'll focus on will be the skill development advocacy. In this session, we'll explore the power of advocacy and building skills, um, the kind of skills you need to become an effective advocate, whether it's in your workplace, community, or through policy change. We'll focus on practical tools, strategies, and insights that will help make our advocacy efforts more impactful. So the objective of this session, I would say, is that it will introduce advocacy to you and create a foundation of knowledge and understanding of advocacy concepts and approaches. You can build upon and learn from existing advocacy and influencing experiences and expertise. We'll also, strengthen your advocacy by incorporating insights from the experiences of women with disabilities to enhance efforts to push for inclusive policies and practices. Aside from that, you're going to build very strong communication and collaborative skills to engage effectively with diverse groups, including policymakers, community members, and the general public. So, what is advocacy? Many times we say, oh, I'm an advocate, but it goes beyond that. What aspects of your life, what do you put in to really be considered an advocate for a particular cause? The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, have defined advocacy as the process of strategically managing and sharing knowledge to change and influence policies and practices that affect people's life. They also said advocacy is the active support of a cause, policy, or group of people, particularly focusing on amplifying voices of people who are often marginalized. It's almost like speaking for people who are not able to speak for themselves. So even when they are speaking for themselves, adding your voice. So advocacy generally is about motivating and mobilizing the community. It starts with a small group of people who share concerns about a specific problem. And those people are also willing to devote time because advocacy is not just a one-way activity. It's a process. Sometimes it could be very gradual, and sometimes it could be, fast. So when we talk about advocacy, it requires intentional planning, strategy, and effort. It's not spontaneous. It's not something you just wake up and like, oh, I'm an advocate. No, it has to be structured. If you really want to achieve something at the end of your advocacy effort, then there are steps you need to take. There are things you need to apply to your work to make sure you're successful. And the goal is to inform and influence those who are empowered to create change. Advocacy seeks to shape policies, to create laws and practices. For example, the conventions I talked about came about because so many people advocated for it. Now, effective advocacy greatly relies on solid evidence to support its goal. That's why we need statistics to back up our claims and say, this particular issue needs attention. We need to focus on this issue because it is affecting a whole group of people. So I want to say, I want to ask this personal reflective question. I'll say, take a piece of paper wherever you are in your office, at home. Write down a write down a time when you advocated for yourself or someone else. What challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them? Now, take that time to reflect on your advocacy journey. What has been the most rewarding experience? It doesn't have to be big, no matter how small. What have you done in your office, in your own little, you know, in your own little situation? How have you been able to advocate for yourself or someone? And what were the challenges? What has been the most difficult? I want you to take your time, think about the definitions I've just given, and think about some ways that you have advocated and what it means for you. Write it down so we can discuss it. Send me an email, chat with me. I'd like to hear from you. Now, like I said, advocacy is not something you just wake up and say, oh, I'm an advocate. There are steps, there are approaches, there are things you need to do categorically that you know is leading towards change that you can now consider advocacy. Firstly, is education and awareness. The idea is to inform the public and stakeholders about key issues using facts. So, like for example, if you want to talk about workplace equity, you have to bring research, you have to bring up data and personal stories to raise awareness about that issue. You move on to policy advocacy. These approaches are not limited to this, but these are something that are tried and tested. Now, policy advocacy means that you will engage with policymakers to influence legislation or regulations that impact the community or cause. Community mobilization. It means you're building grassroots support by rallying communities. Take collective action. Most oftentimes it's through events, petitions, or even campaigns. Then you talk about strategic partnership. There is this partnership, for example, how we have partnered with three different organizations to bring this course curriculum to life. Strategic partnership, collaborating with other organizations, allies, or stakeholders will strengthen your impact and your advocacy efforts. Our media engagement using media channels like social media, website, news outlets to spread this message that will shape public opinion and increase visibility because that's the idea behind it. You want more people to be involved in what you're advocating for. It is not individualistic. To achieve an aim, it has to come together. You have to come together as a group. Direct action. What when we say direct action, I'm talking about organizing like demonstrations, public gatherings, just anything to draw attention to yourself. Then we come to research and evidence building. You collect data, reports, and studies to support your advocacy, because that is how you can know if you're improving, and it will create a credible foundation for change because you have to be building on something. And now lobbying is a very important aspect because this will mean you meet directly with legislators, government officials, or influencers to promote specific policies or initiatives. Then capacity building. This would mean you're empowering individuals or groups by providing them with the skills and resources they need to advocate for change. Now, what we're doing with this course curriculum is capacity building. The more people are involved in this, the better. But also, most importantly, what we're doing now is education and awareness, which I would like to talk more on. Um, what are ways to educate and raise awareness? As an approach, it means you have to put yourself out there, host events, educate the public on issues like disability rights, inclusion, or gender-based violence. For example, you can create a workshop on understanding accessibility laws and how they impact the workplace. From there, people will begin to see the barrier around this topic. Also, you can organize community events where you bring community members that will come together to learn about um, their rights, provide the resources available to them, or tell them about the resources available to them, and ways to get involved in advocacy. Now, education and awareness is a form of advocacy that involves informing the public and stakeholders about key issues, using facts, data, and personal stories to raise awareness. This is why it's a very important approach. It is the approach we have adopted in our own advocacy efforts to educate and raise awareness. Let's see how we can, other examples of how we can educate and raise awareness. We can maybe do school outreach programs, go to schools and, partner with them to incorporate disability awareness into the curriculum, for example, or maybe host guest lectures to discuss equity and inclusion. We can do information sections in our community, bringing community members together to learn about their rights and the resources available to them. And also webinars, we could do master classes, just trainings, anything that would just put the information out there in an accessible way. Welcome in an advocacy effort. Um, so now I want us to take a moment, think about an individual, a story or a moment you've witnessed or heard about where someone advocated for a cause effectively. Now, it could be a public figure, it could be someone popular, it could be a colleague, or even a friend who inspired you through your advocacy. Write this down so we can discuss it in the comment section. We can chat about it and get insights from it. Take your time and think about it. It's just something I want you to reflect on. So the learning, you begin to understand what it means, to be an advocate. Strategies, very important. This are what I would say, you know, things you need to think about strategically that will, connect you to the idea of a goal. First of all, before you think about a strategy, you need to understand the approach, which we talked about earlier. The approach you want to use, for example, we have chosen to use education and awareness as our approach. So some important strategies will be public awareness campaign, education and training, media outreaches, storytelling, coalition building. All these strategies can be adopted, tailored to different situations. For example, you can choose to work to shape policy through policy influence, through lobbying. You can also decide to conduct workshops for your education and training. You can partner with other organizations in your coalition building and encourage community members to take action through grassroots mobilization. You can ask people to share their personal stories and lived experiences to create empathy and bring a human face to your strategy. Because if you, for example, if you're advocating for workplace equity, bring women or individuals with, you know, bring individuals with this background to mobilize them and create a strategy. That is the whole idea. Here are some key questions you need to consider in your advocacy efforts. You need to think about what is the main goal? What are the specific issues you want to address in your advocacy? Who is our target audience? Like, who are the key decision makers and stakeholders? How can we ensure that our advocacy aligns with the real needs and voices of women with disabilities, for example? So there, what are the needs and priorities of the community we are advocating for? What evidence and data supports our advocacy? What strategy will be most effective for this cause? And how can we anticipate and address opposition? Are we using an intersectional approach? Can we empower the community in our advocacy? These are very important questions you have to ask yourself in your advocacy efforts. So first step, define the issue, set clear goals and objectives, identify key stakeholders and decision makers, develop your advocacy strategy, build partnership and alliances, celebrate wins and acknowledge contributions. Then you engage and mobilize the community, craft your message, take action and implement your strategy, monitor progress and adapt as needed, then evaluate and reflect all the steps. This brings us to the end of our discussion on advocacy. Um, Advocacy is the engine of change. It's a powerful tool to transform challenges into opportunities. And I wish us all the best of luck as we stand up, stand out, and make a difference. Thank you very much.